of the world, top of the... Hello everybody, and welcome to our Wonder Women podcast, the main podcast for the business magazine women.com. In our podcast, just like in our magazine, we're focused on promoting women's voices in business, technology, STEM, politics, sports, arts, and culture. My name is Monica Antohi. I'm the founder of the business magazine women.com and the host for today's podcast. Today, we are speaking with Alyssa Carson. She is an astronaut in training. She's 17 years old, young woman that plans on being on the first flight, the first manned flight to Mars. She's driven, she's passionate, and she's been dreaming of becoming an astronaut since she was 3 years old. So here at Wonder Women, we love space and science and rockets, but mostly we love the Wonder Women, the Wonder Girls that are going to become the Wonder Women of tomorrow, the ones that will take us to Mars and to the belt and further still and past the solar system. So we simply adore Alyssa. This is a fun and geeky conversation. We're going to be honest, it's a very geeky conversation about space. We'll be talking about astrobiology. We'll be talking about Mars, education, research missions to the Arctic and the upper atmosphere, and yes, we'll be talking about the Martian as well, the movie and the book, but no, we're not going to be talking about how he grew his potatoes on Mars. So I personally geeked out the interview, so forgive my giggles and excitement, but I am very excited to have had this conversation with Alyssa, and I'm also a little bit jealous of Alyssa and of her generation for having this massive opportunity to go to the other planets and basically take humanity with them, take all of us with them. It's been a dream of mine to become an astronaut. But anyway, that's not going to happen in this lifetime, so maybe the next. So until we either invent time machines that can take me back in time and let me pursue physics and follow up my dreams on being an astronaut, I'm going to live my astronaut dreams vicariously through Alyssa. So let's get you to the podcast. It's a fun 45 minutes, and we really hope you enjoy it and share with your daughters and nieces and all the little girls that could start thinking about a career in STEM and a future as an astronaut. So before I let you enjoy this awesome conversation that we've had with Alyssa, we just wanted to mention quickly our Patreon page. So if you like what you're hearing or seeing, consider supporting us at patreon.com, spelled patreon.com/Wonder Women Podcast. Also, another quick reminder, our summer issue is out. Check it out and catch up with our Wonder Women in issues 1, 2, and 3 at thebusinessmagazinewomen.com/magazine. The music, again, is by composer extraordinaire, email marketing maven, and our own Wonder Woman of music, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. If you like her songs, like we do, go to cbemusic.com to get your free music bundle. That's it. Let's get you to meet Alyssa Carson. Hello, Alyssa, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, it's great to be here.
So let's introduce you to everybody. You're 17. You're the perfect age to go to Mars. So you're going to Mars. You're wearing a NASA shirt. You've gone through the NASA training. Let's start with who Alyssa Carson is, because a lot of people know you, but not a lot of people know you either. So let's give them a little more background than my geeking out intro.
Basically, I decided that I wanted to become an astronaut when I was 3 years old. Basically from just watching a cartoon as a little kid, and then ever since then, my kind of passion for space and the whole idea of wanting to go to Mars has just kind of grown and grown. And so since then, I've basically been trying to find any kind of really anything that would build my education about it, build my knowledge, build my training for space. And so basically what I'm doing now is jumping on as many opportunities as I can to build a resume for when I apply to the astronaut selection program in the future. So it's definitely about making myself stand out, making myself unique, and that will hopefully increase my chances of being selected one day to be on that first mission to Mars.
Absolutely, and I'm super excited about your plans for that. But how did you start on that path? What was your first thought? 3 years old, you saw something that triggered you into, okay, I really like to do this. And then what happened?
Right. So when I first got just kind of started knowing what space was, I kept asking for pictures, videos, DVDs, movies, posters, kind of whatever I could really get my hands on about space and about Mars. And so I kind of independently started studying the little books or whatever that I was getting. And then actually on a family vacation, we kind of all ran across the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama. And so we went and toured it, and I was kind of over the moon. There were big giant rockets everywhere, and it was basically just a really cool experience for me. And then while we were going there, we found out about the space camp that they have. And so, of course, I was dying and begging my dad to let me go. And so me and my dad did a parent-child camp together. And so really having that long weekend at space camp, I kind of learned everything that I'd been like trying to get from just independently studying, and it just kind of made me want to do it even more and kind of encouraged me. So from then on, I just kind of kept going to space camp, and it just kind of kept building my knowledge about things. And then I continued looking for other camps around the country, such as Virginia Space Flight Academy, and there's also one in Pensacola Flight Academy, and so just kind of seeking out different opportunities. And so it's kind of built to the point now where I'm working with a program called Possum Academy, which is based out of Daytona Beach, Florida. And Possum Academy basically it's basically it's a group, and they're studying clouds in the upper atmosphere. So it stands for Polar Suborbital Science in the Upper Mesosphere, which basically just means that we're doing research, and we do research missions to study the upper atmosphere.
Very cool. What kind of research are you doing? Like, what is your area? What are you focusing on?
Well, so I've currently done multiple research missions with them so far. So my first one was up in High Level, Canada, Alberta, Canada. And there we were doing a tomography mission, which means we were trying to get good images of clouds. And we were taking the images from 3 different locations, pointing in the same direction to hopefully get a 3D images of the clouds. And so I worked both up in the airplane, so we flew up to 20,000 feet, and then we had to point the camera, control the exposure, make sure we were getting proper images. And then I also worked on the ground crew, which was like a 2-hour drive, and then we were in the middle of this dirt road in the middle of absolutely nowhere, setting up a camera on the top of a car, also trying to get the same images. So that was a neat experience to learn about kind of the camera part of it and learn all those systems. And then my other research missions have really been geared towards spacesuits, really. So we also work with the Final Frontier Design, who builds spacesuits. And so the first one was a microgravity flight. So that was also in Canada, and so we had one person in a spacesuit, and he was required to do different tasks, and then the rest of us had other positions. So my job was the assistant of the person in the suit, so I had to make sure he was doing the task, making sure he was comfortable and things like that. And then the third research mission was it was a underwater survival course, so I learned how to escape from like an airplane or helicopter crash when it goes underwater, and then we took those skills and we applied it to space. So we had a mock-up capsule, and we were all in spacesuits, and we had to escape out of the capsule in our spacesuits. And so we did both coming out of a side hatch and coming out the top hatch. And so we trained and learned the different parts of the spacesuit, the flotation device. We also learned how to belay down, so all those skills. But a lot of that it's helping the spacesuit company with their design for their suit, making sure it can withstand the water or be flexible enough in microgravity. So everything that we're doing is kind of building my resume, because it's building things that I will use in the future, but it's also helping them as well.
Absolutely. And are you... I'm sorry, I can hear myself. But are you working on the new spacesuits, the ones that are built to adapt to the body, built to work with the body? They're not the puffy ones. They're the tighter ones, the ones that work with, I don't know exactly what they're working with, but they're basically using compression instead of air. So they're using the mesh in the suit itself to compress our bodies, basically, instead of using the air to compress us to give us the pressure that we need. Have you worked with those at all?
I have not. So the ones we are working with, they're classified as IVA suits, which means they're not really meant for being exposed to space itself.
Okay.
They're meant to be worn inside of a craft, and which is why it's working with Possum Academy, because they're working on a suborbital flight, just going up to the upper atmosphere, taking a sample of this cloud and coming back. So their correlation isn't necessarily being out and exposed to space. So their suits are kind of more of like the traditional looking suit, and definitely they have some parts of them that are different from a traditional spacesuit, but they're definitely not quite like those, and they wouldn't necessarily be used for a trip to Mars or something like that, but it's definitely a start.
That's awesome. So besides your extracurricular activities, do you actually still go to school? Are you still in high school?
I am. So I still go to high school, and I go to an international school, which means that since kindergarten I've been taking all of my subjects in 4 different languages, being English, French, Spanish, and Chinese. And with that, I am also working towards my international baccalaureate diploma, and so you work on that your 12th grade year.
Very nice. So 4 languages, you're learning those specifically because of the people you're going to be working with in the astronaut program.
Well, yes. So the languages, it's kind of, the school basically forces you to be multilingual, but definitely will help in the space program. I think that it kind of just, now my brain is almost like adapted to languages. So, for example, as I learn to pick up Russian and things like that, it'll be easier for me. And also, I think that the whole idea of the Mars mission is that kind of all the governmental agencies almost like have this dream of it being like a global mission. And so I definitely think growing up through the different cultures and things like that, it's an easier transition, and being able to be with the people, being able to speak their own language, and all being comfortable around each other.
Absolutely, and it's a matter of culture too. So the more you learn a new language, you're understanding that culture a little bit better. So by learning the 4 languages, you're tapping into multiple cultures as well. So it's going to help you tremendously in dealing with any new culture you're going to experience. So that's going to be a really good, thing to have in your arsenal when you're, meeting with all these future astronauts, when you're going to be going up there into a 2-year space mission. That's very, very long if you're going back and forth, right, to Mars. But so far, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing so far. So you have your pilot's license. Well, you're working on your pilot's license, correct?
Right. So I have my advanced scuba certification.
Yes.
I'm working on my pilot's license, and then the next thing, once I get that, I would be working on is getting skydive certified.
Nice.
And then as of right now, really, I'm just going through school, getting those things, and then doing as much with Possum as I can, doing as many research missions as kind of my school schedule allows.
That's very cool. So you're getting close to going into undergrad. What are your plans for undergrad? Where are you planning on going undergrad and grad school and, master's and doctoral program? What are you planning on doing, and where are you planning on going?
I want to get a degree in astrobiology. I think that that's important for the Mars mission. Astrobiology is kind of a little bit more broad, so you get a good bit of like biology, physics, chemistry, geology, like a mix of all of them. And I think that for a mission like going to Mars, it's very important to be well-versed in all the different sciences, because we don't necessarily know exactly what we're going to need, what we're going to be doing. So being able to have someone with all the skills would be kind of more ideal, I think. And so looking at that, a big college I'm looking at for my undergrad is Florida Institute of Technology. They're
awesome. I know people there. They're absolutely awesome.
Yeah, they're kind of the only college in the U.S. that offers astrobiology as an undergrad, which is super exciting. I think that would be super cool to kind of start on the astrobiology track as an undergrad instead of starting off in kind of like a basic natural science or something like that. And then after that, I plan to get my master's from International Space University, and they're based in Strasbourg, France. And then finish off at MIT.
Very, very cool. For Florida, you're going to see a group of women your age that are racing jet engines, jet cars. So you might like that because they're using the jet propulsion, jets basically from NASA up the street, up the road, and they're using all those parts to run cars and then build cars, and it's very, very cool, building new machines and all that. So astrobiology. All right, so let's talk a little bit about that. What's the attraction for you towards astrobiology?
I mean, I definitely think that ever since I first got interested in wanting to become an astronaut, I've always wanted to be more of like a scientist or kind of like a mission specialist, the one that kind of sits back and waits till we get there to start doing the work. And so since I wanted to go down that more scientist path, I originally was thinking something like astrophysics, and then I actually, when I was on a panel at 12 years old in Washington, D.C., talking about future missions to Mars, I had mentioned possibly going into astrophysics in the future, and then another lady on the panel was an astrobiologist, and she came up to me and she was like, astrobiology would be, and she just kind of started talking it up, and she kind of explained how astrophysics would be kind of slightly geared predominantly towards physics, and that astrobiology would be a little bit more broad. And so after hearing what she said, she made some good points, and so I started looking more into astrobiology, and since then I've kind of focused on it.
Makes sense, because especially if you're going on a planet, if you would be out in space, and if you be even the International Space Station, you can still use a lot of astrobiology because you can see plants, how they're growing and what they're doing with and microgravity and all that stuff. But specifically, if you're going to Mars, you kind of need to know what's around you and how it all interacts together. So yeah, it makes sense for you to have an astrobiology certification and specialization. So I can't tell you how much I'm geeking out about this. But so talking about Mars and talking about what you're planning on doing on Mars, what do you think you'll be doing on Mars?
I think that once we get there, a lot of the beginning things that we're going to be doing is kind of just setting everything up, making it like homely basically, because we're going to be there for quite some time. And then after that, really all the experiments and everything that we're wanting to do will begin. So a lot of what kind of I would be researching is taking like water samples from Mars, testing for signs of bacterial life, also just taking rock and soil samples, seeing all the components that are there that can be utilized, also learning more about its atmosphere, the history of Mars, seeing what we can find out, and then also kind of any surprises that we come up with along the way will be things that we're going to research.
That would be awesome, because right now, with the rovers on Mars, it takes a very long time for us to find out anything about, anything that we're finding on Mars. The chlorine particles that they found in 2014, and then yesterday, NASA announced the methane particles that they're finding. So we're finding organic molecules on Mars, but if you would be there, it would be so much quicker. If we would be on Mars and be doing this research, we'd be finding it quicker. We'd be getting the answers that we need about, evolution of life in the solar system a lot quicker, and we could see the similarities between Earth and Mars, and we can figure out what happened. So yes, the science would advance a lot faster. So yes, what do you think about finding organic particles on Mars?
I think that it's definitely that's one of the reasons why we really need to get people there, and it's definitely kind of lots of people's arguments that we have the rovers, but it's really hard for people to comprehend really how long it takes them to even move just a little. And once you have people there, a human has natural instincts, we can be like, oh, let's go look at that rock, and oh, let's take some of this to bring back, and things like that. And we have to wait for someone who will have like a 30-minute time delay telling us what to do. And so having all these new discoveries coming out with the rovers is absolutely amazing. And I think it's just making us all even more excited to get there and get people there to really find out what's going on.
That's awesome. So there's two possibilities for going to Mars. One of them is kind of like the Martian version, like the Martian, the movie, right? So you go to Mars, you stay there, do some research, go back home, right? And sometimes you get stuck there, but hopefully, hopefully not going to happen. But and then the other version is Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars. Have you read those 3 books? It's a series of books on how we're going to colonize Mars. And it starts with 100 people being sent to Mars to basically do what you guys are talking about doing and slowly start terraforming. And from the 100 people, the next batch is 1,000 people. And they keep growing and growing and growing. So which path do you think is more viable? Because scientists right now, they're talking about sending resupply missions way ahead of time to sending, ships that can actually create their own fuel, basically, so they can be ready for when you guys are ready to come back, basically, on the next one, when the human contingent is going to get there and be like, okay, we're ready to go back. So which one do you think is more plausible, and which one would you prefer to see?
Right. So I think that kind of for the first missions that go to Mars, I think that there will be a return for the first missions. I definitely think that terraforming is the ultimate goal, and is kind of also one of the things that excites people about going to Mars, the possibility of terraforming. But I think that for the first missions, they want to, I'm thinking more of a way of going, collecting things, bringing things back to Earth to begin with, rather than sending the crew to stay. I think that we will work up to that point, but it's all about keeping the excitement and keeping missions going to Mars as we continue exploring. But definitely there's lots of different people with different ideas as to what they want to do. Right now, governmental agencies such as NASA, ESA, the Russian Space Organization, kind of their ideas is to have a mission there and then a return mission. And as far as the fuel to get back, since you would be living on Mars for a little over a year, you would be generating the fuel while you're there. So it would be almost like another daily task, checking on the fuel building. So and that was kind of their idea. And then there's also other companies who want the whole colonization and terraforming. And I definitely think that those ideas will be beneficial for us. I think that personally, for me, I would still go with whatever mission that they would choose. But I think that I would prefer to come back and really just continue speaking to kids, speaking to people about the experience and finding dreams and kind of following them no matter your age.
Do you think you're going to retire on Mars? It's less gravity. It could be better on long term if you think about it. Do you think you'll be retiring to Mars? So do you think that you're going to go there and come back, talk to us about what's going on up there and go back and retire on Mars? Do you think that could be a possibility? Because I believe that could be a possibility in your lifetime, for sure.
I think that once I kind of come back from Mars, really the whole idea of going back to space is kind of difficult, since going to Mars is such a long mission. You lose lots of bone density and muscle strength. However, if you're going back to space just to stay on Mars, then you really wouldn't need to readapt to Earth's atmosphere, which means you really wouldn't have to build that strength back once you go. So I suppose it is a possibility. I guess it would just be the thing of the space agencies taking that risk of putting more stress on the person's body. It depends on how far they want to push that. Because definitely it's kind of one of the biggest concerns of the mission to Mars is how the body's going to react with being in all these different conditions for so long. Because Mars has gravity, we're going to be using bones and muscles, but it's just simply not what it is here on Earth. And so once
about a third, right?
It's such a big struggle in readapting and building your strength back up.
What's the Mars gravity, about a third that we have here?
Right, it's about a third.
Right, so that's fairly high compared to other, planets and moons in the solar system. So I don't know if you're watching The Expanse on Sci-Fi. It's a really freaking amazing show about the humans expanding into the solar system and into the belt, basically, the asteroid belt. And so I don't know if you're watching that at all, but check that out, because I think you might find it interesting, because they're talking about, well, it's not the main topic, but you're seeing how we evolve as humans, basically, in outer space, and how, like you said, we're losing bone mass and density, but we grow taller and taller because of lower gravity, and bless you. So check that one out to see what we can do, because out of all the sci-fi shows out there, this one is the closest timeline-wise. It's 200 years in the future, and it's talking about, you know, how humans have colonized Mars, and how they're adapted to Mars conditions, and how they've colonized the belt, and, you know, how those people are adapted to those conditions as well. So we're going in that direction, because there's a lot of commercial companies pushing heavily towards going towards the belt, going towards the asteroid belt, and monetizing those. So it's going there. You're going to see that in your lifetime for sure. I'm hoping to see that in my lifetime as well. But like I said, I'm completely and utterly jealous of your age, and the fact that you're able to start on this path right now. So at 17, it's spectacular. I'm so proud of you. I'm sure your dad is super proud of you. So let's talk a little bit about family, because we're talking about going to Mars and maybe coming back or maybe not coming back, depending on how NASA is going to be doing this, and how, let's say, SpaceX is going to be doing this, or Mars One, or even the oh my God, Amazon. I'm having a complete lapse right now. What's Amazon's space program? Jeff Bezos. Yes. So there's a lot of companies that are trying to get there as soon as possible. So what's going to happen with family? Your dad is your biggest supporter, and he's been next to you through all this, your first space camp. What's going to happen with family?
So basically, right now, if kind of you were to have a mission to Mars and then you were to come back, that would still be between like a 2 to 3 year mission. So that's a pretty long time without like having your friends and family around you. And definitely, as far as, you know, you're leaving kind of the family that you do have, and you're also kind of putting off the idea of like your own family, because they kind of, it was almost like recommended to like wait to have a family till you come back. And really the idea behind that is because if you have children or a husband who is here on Earth, and something were to happen to them, that's going to take up a lot of, like, you're constantly going to be thinking about that. You're kind of worrying. And when you're on a mission that no one has done before, everything's super dangerous, you're in space, that could be putting you in danger, it could be putting everyone else in danger. So they just want everyone to be really focused on what they're doing to ensure everyone's safety. So it's definitely a sacrifice, and there comes multiple like sacrifices with wanting to do the mission to Mars, and it's all about thinking about kind of the benefits that we'll get from going to Mars, and kind of that start of pushing people to believe in the idea. And so that's kind of what I've always been promoting, is kind of the idea that we can get there and we can explore further, and Mars is just that first baby step in doing that.
Absolutely, and with your dad being such a huge supporter, it helps you go forward, it helps you stay the path, and it helps you stay motivated. So when it comes to your own family, we gotta, you know, there's other ways for you to, like, not initially start a family, but make sure that you're protected when it comes to that long term. There's, you know, you can freeze eggs right now. There's the advances in biology on our planet. We're doing fairly good. We could do a lot better, but there's ways to preserve the idea of family for when you do come back, you know, from a space mission. So family is super important because it binds us, but at the same time, they're super supportive, and it helps push us forward as well, because we do need to go forward. So that being said.
Well, right, and right now, looking at kind of like the timeline for the mission to Mars, you know, they're looking at the early 2030s, which means I'll be in my early 30s, and then only a 2 to 3 year mission. Not going to be too old.
No, oh God, no, you're not going to be too old. You're not going to be too old. So, and it's your perfect time. So what are you doing right now for girls your age or younger than you to encourage them to come into STEM and to take up any sort of science path to get us closer to, you know, like we were talking about, like one nation, because in space we're going to be one nation if you think about it. We're all working towards the same goal when we're in space together. So how are you doing that?
Right, so I really enjoy, you know, going around speaking to kids, especially girls, getting them more interested in the idea of going into a STEM career. And so usually I like to just tell them kind of all the exciting things that I'm doing and kind of telling them how they can do the exact same thing. I also like telling them, you know, once you find kind of like that subject in school, whether it is math or science or maybe it's something else even, to just really kind of look more into it, see what career opportunities there are within that, because there's so many areas you can go. For example, like with math, you being a teacher and being an engineer, two completely different things, but definitely you're both using math. And so once you find something that you really enjoy, just start talking about it, telling your parents, telling your friends, because you never really know what opportunities will come about. You never know who somebody knows or what they did in the past, or kind of where they came from, or if they have any connection to what you're going into. So it's really teaching them about the way to kind of get the opportunities and kind of push themselves forward. And then once they have that dream or that goal, just to never let go of it and never let anyone take it away from them, because it's kind of, I know that me saying kind of at 3 when I was like when I was that age that I was going to become an astronaut and go to Mars, it probably sounded absolutely crazy to everyone around me. But definitely it's been kind of super exciting, and it's kind of worked me towards that point where I have a high chance of being selected one day. And so it's definitely kind of showing them an example of how you can do it and that it is possible for them.
That is super awesome. And it's not like you don't have challenges, right? It's not like there's no obstacles to overcome in your life, but having this motivation, having this drive that you're going to do something and you know you're going to do it, it gets you up in the morning. Talking about motivation, what gets you up in the morning?
I mean, really for me, I mean, the reason why I've kind of always stuck to wanting to become an astronaut and kind of wanting to be a part of this is mainly just because I think that's something that I just have a strong passion for and something that I'm super interested in. And so it's kind of like that cliche, you know, like if you like what you're doing, you'll never work a day. And so it's kind of almost like that, because since I'm so interested, everything that I'm doing for space, whether it is going on fun research missions or writing 2,000-word essays, is still kind of like a learning experience. And I'm still building on what I want to do, and I would much rather do a project or an essay about space than about like the American Revolution. So it's definitely what I'm interested in. So when I have to do things for space, it's kind of less of a chore.
Absolutely, and you're future focused, and you're trying to push forward, and not just for yourself, but you're trying to bring the girls behind you with you as well. So, little American hero, Alyssa Carson, who was your biggest influence? Who made you into who you are? Do you have a mentor? Do you have somebody that was like, yep, I would like to be her, or yeah, I love what she's doing, or anything like, or maybe he is doing?
I mean, when I was growing up, I met an astronaut who kind of became like a big influence for me, like when I was young. And basically, her name is Sandra Magnus, and she has flown on several space shuttle missions, and when I met her, she was preparing to fly on her last. And so I met her when I was around 9, and I mainly just asked her, you know, when did she decide to become an astronaut? How did she get to like where she was? And she was explaining to me that she decided at 9 years old to become an astronaut. And so just kind of seeing that she had decided at a young age, and she had grown up, worked hard, fulfilled her dream, and was now flying into space just kind of blew my mind. And so it kind of really motivated me and showed me that you can decide what you want to do at a young age and then work hard and fulfill it, and that kind of your career path doesn't have to be like a last-minute decision almost. And so it kind of really showed me that I had decided what I wanted to do and that it was possible for me to get there in the future. And so she kind of motivated me a little bit more to kind of keep working towards it, and kind of kept me going and kind of realized that it is a possibility. And then since then, I've definitely had other people. I had an old NASA director talk to me when I was pretty young and kind of just like explain to me if it was possible for me to go to space and kind of what things were important. And then, everyone kind of along the way that I've met has just been super supportive and super excited of the idea.
What's the most fun you've had in your training since you started doing all this? What was the most fun you've had? What was the thing that was like, this is so awesome, I want to do this a lot more?
There's been so much, but I think that the zero-G flight was lots of fun. It was very sickening, just because of like all the twists and turns and your stomach just not being okay with any of it. So that wasn't like the most enjoyable part, but just having the experience and being able to basically float was just absolutely incredible. And I know for me, I got a little sick on my flight. However, I was prepared and had not put anything in my stomach. So I knew that the flight would not be canceled because of me, because I wasn't eating anything. I wasn't going to allow anything to mess it up. So kind of for me, I got kind of moved to the side because I wasn't feeling too well. But basically, I didn't have anything to come up, so I was still enjoying all of the times I got to float. And basically, they were just trying to kind of calm my stomach. It wasn't happening, but I was still enjoying myself, and I was still able to help with the research and float and all that. So it was kind of a really memorable experience. And then I'd say the other one that was been really enjoyable was the underwater survival training. It was a really neat experience, and it almost kind of built my like security, you could say.
Yeah.
Because I definitely know that before I went there, if my car had run it and gone underwater or something, I guess like I had an idea about what I would do, and then once I got there, I figured out that it was completely wrong what I was thinking I should do. And so definitely learning the skills and having them in the back of my head no matter when I could possibly need them at any point in my life, but having those skills in the background kind of builds that sense of security, knowing that you can always relate back to that and go back to that. And so that was a really memorable experience.
That's really awesome. All right, so I'm going to try to take us out of all of the science questions and take us into some personal questions. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book.
You can have like 2 or 3 or 5 or 10. I have like 15.
I'm going to go with The Martian.
Andy Weir's Martian.
It's really basic, but I definitely think that the book and the movie of The Martian have both kind of been a huge influence of getting more people excited about space and the idea of going to Mars. And I think it's kind of, unlike some other space movies that have come out recently, it's been kind of a huge game changer, and more people have been talking about it, more people have been getting intrigued about it. And so I think it's helped in creating kind of the movement that kind of I've been working towards and getting people interested about space and about Mars. And so I think it's definitely contributed to that. And so it's kind of all helping with that and kind of all about that same idea. So I think it's definitely helped a lot and been a great piece of work.
Alyssa, that's a really nice book. It's fun to read, and it's hilarious in some parts, and it's heart-wrenching in some other parts. And the movie visuals are absolutely spectacular, and I'll give you that. It's an absolutely great choice. One last question. If you have a billboard Alyssa, what would you put on that billboard? And where would you put this billboard? You can put whatever you want on the billboard and put it wherever you want in the world or above the planet or whatever you want to put it. What message do you have?
Okay, so I'm thinking really big.
Yes.
So I'm thinking we can project it on the moon, and so like everyone can see it. And then let's see. Then what would I put on it? What would I tell the whole world? I guess after that, I would just put. I guess really just. I guess we could have like a picture of Mars, and then we could have like a nice slogan that like rhymes and is like clever, which I probably can't come up with on the spot, but that's okay. But
it's okay.
Probably just along the lines of like, let's get there, or let's keep pushing towards our goal, or something like that. And with and then in the corner we'd have like a small like follow your dreams. And so yeah, that's probably what I would do.
I love the location. The location is absolutely perfect. Nobody's ever said that to me before. I want to put this billboard on the moon. I want to put like the message on the moon. That is the most perfect location. So that's all my questions for today. What is one question that I haven't asked you? What is it that you want to tell us that I haven't asked you? Something that matters to you.
I mean, really just like the big thing that I always like to get across is just letting people know that they can follow their own dreams and they can do whatever they want. And so definitely think we've hit on that, and definitely hopefully people will be inspired and or encouraged to start working towards whatever their goals may be.
Alyssa, thank you so very much for today. I really greatly appreciate your time, and I appreciate you being so phenomenally driven to do what you're wanting to do, but it's also helping everybody else. By you doing what you're doing, it's helping you pulling everybody else out with you. So I'm super grateful for what you're doing, and I'm super grateful for you coming in and doing this podcast with me. So I want to say massive thank you to you, and I can't believe I geeked out for the last 45 minutes.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and I want to say goodbye to everybody, and thanks for tuning in. This was Alyssa Carson, and she's going to be an astronaut, and she's going to take us all to Mars. So look at her now. She's 17. You're going to see her on Mars waving to us on camera from Mars in the next 15 years. So thank you, Alyssa, and thank you so very much, and goodbye, everybody, and this is all there is for us today. Thanks. Bye.
Top of the world. Top. Hey everybody, thanks again for tuning in today. We greatly appreciate it. So just a quick reminder, for the price of a glass of wine, you can now hear your name and your company's name on our podcast. Make your way to patreon.com/Wonder Women Podcast and show your support for us so that we can create more opportunities for female founders, women entrepreneurs, and young, brilliant women like Alyssa Carson to be seen, heard, and get funded and fulfill their dreams of becoming, the next generation of astronauts that gets into go into space and go into Mars. Thanks everybody, and remember to subscribe, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.